Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to my Sunday home mechanic edition. In this episode I'll be showing to you how to do a non-conventional bike repair. I have a problem with my bike. I have accidentally stripped the threads on the master cylinder, and yeah, obviously the bike is not in a rideable condition. I have to find a way how to repair them. But before we dive into the details, let's examine what the bike brakes actually are and how exactly they work. The working element of the braking system is the caliper. So the caliper is the thing that holds the brake pads, which will rub against the braking disc, transforming the kinetic energy of the forward propulsion into the heat energy that will be absorbed by the brake. And this is how this actually works. So the faster you move, the more kinetic energy needs to be absorbed, the harder the pads need to rub against the disc, and the hotter the disc will become. So sounds straightforward. The trick of hydraulic brakes is that they are actuated by the hydraulic line, which runs all the way into the caliper. This thingy, which is attached to the handlebar, is actually the reservoir of hydraulic fluid, and the lever, what it actually does, it pushes a piston into this reservoir that pushes the hydraulic fluid all the way down the leading line, and eventually that translates into the pistons within the caliper actually pressing the braking pad against the disc, and this is how it works. Now, the problem is that this thing actually vibrates a lot, so when you ride on the bike you tend to press it, and you ride sometimes in gnarly conditions. It needs to be attached to your handlebars very firmly, and this is what the clamp is for. It's easy to show what the clamp is on the undamaged part. Clamp is this black semicircular thingy that acts as the opposite containing force and is held together in place by two bolts that press the clamp against the master cylinder body, and they hold it firmly and snugly against the handlebar, and this is how this thing is attached. The problem that I have right now is that on this rear brake, the upper bolt got accidentally stripped. If this happens to you, well, don't feel too bad about it, because threads get stripped from time to time. It's a matter of time, if you're doing a lot of maintenance, that you will suffer a stripped threads. And the problem here is that on one hand, what you could do, you could either just replace the brakes. Well, that's possible. The second one, if you're lucky, you can order the replacement body. But in my particular case, these brakes are 9 to 10 years old, so the parts are almost impossible to find. Now, on the other hand, if you look at it, the brake is still perfectly functioning. Just a stripped thread. So a stripped thread will, in this case, cost you 200–300 euros just to get that whole system replaced. So let's reevaluate our options. The thread is stripped. You can't really ride it. Well, what you can do, first thing, you can put an awful lot of Loctite into it, and this is what I've done during my holidays, that I have gone to the nearest hardware store and picked up a thread sealant, and let's see if I will be able to get it back shortly. That's the thing. It checks out as an emergency repair that is suitable for riding in not that much critical conditions, but other than that, you need to seek to repair it. Your second option is to order the replacement part, if you're lucky to have it. In my particular case, it's very difficult to find the exact replacement parts, so there's a good reason why I'm just looking into how to repair the strip thread. You can try to find epoxy that is specifically designed to do the strip thread repair, but it's actually quite costly, because it's typically used for the motorcycle repair. It's kind of not really suitable for bikes. Or you could buy yourself a completely new brakes, which might make sense. Right, so the worst case scenario is I will be replacing these brakes completely. But on the other hand, these brakes are perfectly workable. So what I'll do right now, I'll experiment. Can I actually repair strip threads using fairly cheap repair methods, and see if the brakes will be still rideable. Shall we give it a go? Before doing any work, be sure that you wear gloves and safety glasses. Remember, kids, this will avoid 95% of all accidents. Let's start to see how a simple piece of thread sealant, I've picked up this one from the hardware store, is holding up. If you ever find yourself in a place where you need to use this method, make sure that you check that the sealant is actually removable or breakable with the power tools. If you pick up a sealant which is very strong, you perhaps may need a heat gun to actually break it, which is going to be a different problem. Here you could actually see why this bolt actually got thread stripped. It's because there seems to be a gap here, which is much bigger than I thought it is. So it looks like this clamp didn't get seated correctly, and there were not enough threads that actually engaged into the thread, and that's why it did get thread stripped. Okay, good to know. And this is the clamp that I was talking about. That actually just goes on the handlebar and does it. And this is the back side. This is the back side. Yeah, what we can also do, we can poke around here just to make sure that all other stuff is gone, so that we can really see how what's the scale of the damage. Well, I'm not sure if the camera will give a good picture of it, but you can really see that the threads are actually badly stripped within the master seal on the body. You can really see that there are probably a few turns that are still remaining at the very bottom of the shafts that perhaps they were never used because the bolt has never reached these. But the rest of it just, otherwise as good as no more threads anymore. A little bit about my strategy. So what needs to happen in the end, well, this master cylinder has to be held snug in place on the handlebar by this clamp. So it goes here. Okay, fantastic. So maybe I need to try to play a little bit with position of this clamp. Looks like here it's a little bit not really aligned very well, but the idea is that there is just 5mm threaded curdle that goes into, and it's kind of pushed in place. Original design takes the bolt that runs into the caliper body, but if we just reverse it, if we include the same 5mm that will protrude from it, it's going to be exactly the same thing. We're not changing anything, we're not breaking anything, and it's going to be held exactly as the manufacturer has intended. So now what we're up to, we need to do two things. We need to measure how much thread do we really need, and just cut this part out and then glue it in place. The challenge now is to find just how deep the replacement rod needs to be. So what we can try to do, we can try to see if we can get some no-math measurements. This is the actual depth of the hole. So, how long exactly should this rod be? The internal part that we're going to screw in, and we'll use the remaining threads to give us the alignment of the replacement rod, is 9 millimeters. We'll put a stack on it the click clamp that goes on top of it. This part is about 8 millimeters, and what I'm going to do, I'll try to put this capped nut. This is how it looks. So that's, there are no sharp parts protruding from the end assembly. Maybe it would be a good idea to show it how it would look in the end. So it's going to be something like this. So this part has maximum 7 millimeters inside. So what I need to do, just need to leave 5 millimeters, and to leave 2 millimeters is the space so that the nut can actually screw itself in. The rod that you need, you can get from any hardware store. This is the very long 5 millimeter thread, 5 millimeter step 10 thread. So I'm just going to measure it right now, how long it will need to be, and I'll just cut it, and then I'll glue it in. So after rechecking every single piece once again, I've settled on the total length that I want to cut from this kern is 21 millimeter long. So what I did to make sure that I can make a clean cut, I've set here the limited nuts. So they end right here, exactly at 21 millimeters. So the thing that I need to do right now, I just need to take Dremel and make a clean cut on this particular point. Yeah, remember kids, when doing noise separations, always wear ear protection. Alright, we got nearly clean cut. Yeah, so there are some sharp parts and it's hot. So I'll let it cool for a second, and yeah, then I'm gonna polish it a bit. Alright, so we have 21 millimeter threaded kern that we can actually show to you. So this is how actually it looks. So it will go one way into the main cylinder body, and it's gonna be glued. The threads that probably will be here, I will have it guide and then take the right position, and yeah, I'll put the cap nut on the other side, and that's going to be a repair. But before we will start gluing things in, we need to check whether or not our calculations were correct, and if everything actually fits, and if it will be tight in the end. Well, in the end the calculations were correct. The sitting of this clamp wasn't really perfect. What you're looking at here, you're looking at the kind of completed assembly. So we have the bolt here, we have this cap nut, and kind of I didn't really do any attempt to sort of glue it, but it kind of holds snugly. And of course, kind of you can see that this cap nut, it would be protruding from from the caliper, from the main cylinder clamp, but it just protrudes a couple of millimeters, which to my taste is a reasonable compromise. So looks like the measurements were a success. It looks okay, it looks doable, so I have right now good confidence that if I glue this in, then it will be boltable onto the handlebar once again. So the last step remaining is just to glue it. What we're gonna glue set up. The the master cylinder is right now in the bench vise. It's clamped so that it will stand up, and now is the most critical part of the operation. We actually need to put the glue, well actually I'm going to put the glue into the hole and then screw in the kern so that it will actually go all the way down, and then I will have to remove the excessive glue that will be coming out of the hole. And after that I'll just need to let it sit for 4 hours until it will harden enough for further steps. Okay, the glue is coming out, so it means that the space inside is totally filled and we get the maximum grip. So guys, that was the easiest part. What I've done by now, the master cylinder is removed, it's in the bench vise, the glue is implemented, and I just need to wait. And this is actually the hardest part. This glue will take approximately 4 hours to harden until the moment that we can actually do something with it. So that makes a good moment to break for lunch, to get some food, grab another bike, like a race bike, and to get for the 4-hour ride, so that you can spend your time with a good use. Okay guys, so it's been 4 hours. I take that the resin has hardened. Let's remove the master cylinder from the bench vise and see if we can get it installed back onto the handlebars. Right, so this is a clamp. Get something like this. It's the wrong way, put it this way up. It will be what kind of nut will actually go into over here. Okay, so it has come way too long for one nut, which is good. See if the cap nut will be able to tighten it. Yeah, this is exactly 7 millimeters, so it's certainly too long. Let's say the repair is a stunning success. Yeah, another thing is that this bolt came a little bit too long, longer than I have anticipated. Yeah, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to mark on the protruding part. And give me an idea how much needs to be cut. Yeah. So let's get Dremel out once again, and let's. After I've shortened the kern so that it barely protrudes beyond the top of the nylon nut, so this looks like actually not a bad idea. Just to leave it like this. Right. So essentially, I think I'm done for now, for today. The kern has been screwed in. It's all nice. It holds very firm. Right. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take it out. I'm going to replace it with the cap nut. Just like to have it filled in and occupies the space. Just kind of also a bit as well. Okay guys, so this is the end of the Sunday Mechanic part 1. The insertion of the kern is successful. It's successfully glued. The resulting construction bolts. It holds. So it looks like it's going to work in the end. The only thing that's remaining is to leave it to harden until its target strength for another 6 hours. Obviously I will have to wait a night, and then I'll have to take the bike for the test ride to see which of the two constructions will work best. One with the cap nut or one with the nylon nut. To feel in the field what are the pros and cons. It's going to be part number 2 that I'm going to post sometime soon. Take care.